Hello, hello. This is Ruthie, and today I want to talk to you about a story I heard that is not in the Bible. At least it's not in my Bible. Might be in another translation out there, I don't know. But I do believe it happened because it seems so in keeping with the way that God works. Apparently, when the Jewish people came out of Egypt and they were standing with their backs to the Red Sea and the Egyptians were pursuing them, they were very scared, naturally, and some of them wanted to give themselves up as slaves to the Egyptians. Some of them wanted to fight to the death, and some of them wanted to commit suicide by jumping into the Red Sea. And Moses went off to God about this, and he was very upset, and God said, you know, I'm going to deliver you, don't worry about it. And the story that's not in the Bible, or as I say, not in my translation, is the story about there was one man who just plunged into the Red Sea and he started walking. And the story goes he walked and walked and walked until the water was entering his nose and he was on the point of drowning. And at that point, God split the sea and did a miracle, and the children of Israel walked through on dry ground. Now, the person telling this story on the internet said, how is it that this man was able to have such courage? And he said, well, this man believed with all his heart God was going to split the sea. I do believe the story happened because even though it's not in the Bible, it seems so consistent with the ways of God that I do not think that story came out of nowhere. But I don't agree with the explanation of why the man had so much courage. I do not think that belief that God could split the sea would actually be strong enough to keep a person walking to the point water was entering their lungs and they were beginning to drown. Because I'm very cynical. I don't believe there's a human on the planet, or there was a human on the planet, that would be capable of that level of belief. Maybe Moses, maybe, but it wasn't Moses doing it, so I don't believe it. I believe there is a reason, though, and I think this is a really interesting reason. I don't believe that the man had the courage to keep walking to the point of almost drowning because he absolutely knew God was going to split the sea. I believe that that man had the courage to keep walking till he was almost drowning because he believed that God was worthy of drowning for. What am I saying? Am I saying that we should go out and kill ourselves? Absolutely not. Life is a precious thing. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this. This man obviously believed that God was going to make a way for them to cross the sea. He believed it enough to jump in there and start wading. But when the water started getting higher and higher, and it started to get harder and harder to believe, I do not believe that the belief that God could split the sea was what kept him going. I believe at some point as the water started coming up, he would have clicked into another mindset. And the mindset would have been, even if I drown through this act of faith, God is worthy of it. The reason I want to tell you that is this. We do work in a system where we believe God will reward faithfulness, and it really does give us a lot of courage, and it is a true system. We're not making that up. The Bible is very clear that if you obey God, you will be rewarded on it. However, sometimes that reward is a long, long time in coming, and it may even be that it comes in the world to come when we go to heaven. And sometimes we need a lot more than the mere promise of a reward to keep walking, although we're also working when we're walking for God, because the reward is too far off and it's not a strong enough motivation to keep us gritting our teeth and slogging through the path that God has instructed us to walk in. And it is in moments like that that we do not hold on to the promise or the belief God can split the sea. No, at that moment we will gain our courage from saying, even if he doesn't, I believe he is worthy of drowning for. When God calls you out in life to do things that scare you, you will start initially because you want the reward. When you get to the 3/4 mark, no, sorry, the 3/3 mark, you will become exhausted. You will want to stop. The reward will seem like a delusion. You will begin to wonder if God is playing games with you. It is at that point you will need another source of courage. And the source of courage that will keep you moving past the point of believing there even is a reward is the belief that even if there isn't a reward, God is worthy of anything. And this is the highest level of faith of them all, because the first level of faith is the belief that if we do what's right, we'll be rewarded. But the highest level of faith is believing that even if we are not rewarded, that which God has told us to do is worthy of doing simply because he has told us to do it. It is a very, very hard standard to follow, and I'm not telling you I'm there yet. I'm just telling you I've realized that's the standard we need to be aiming for. There is a concept in Christianity that if you do what's right and you obey the Lord, one day when you die, you'll go to heaven and you'll get given a beautiful mansion. But I am coming to the conclusion that those that really wish to follow God are put on this life for so much more than lay-buying a mansion in heaven, which they pay off with their good deeds. You have to be loyal to God, even if you lose sight of the mansion, even if you lose sight of the world to come, even if you don't think the reward will be there. You have to be like that man who ultimately was able to keep walking to the point of almost drowning because he believed that if he drowned in the will of God, it would be worth it. And it was at that point that God split the sea. When you walk in the ways of God, the reward will keep you going. The promise of the reward will keep you going for a long time. But when you become tired and the reward seems like a delusion, ask yourself, is God worthy? And if your answer is yes, you will be able to walk to the end. Love you. Bye-bye.